Learning how to code isn't about cramming tutorials and grinding LeetCode problems. It's about knowing the shortcut that top engineers used when they first started learning to code. It's the secret strategy that no one really talks about out loud. I've been a software engineer for over 8 years, and I've worked at places like Microsoft and even gone through more than 30 big tech interviews. And if I had to start over today, I would do things completely differently. Back then, I wasted months jumping through courses, Stack Overflow threads, and even YouTube tutorials. I was trying to figure out what actually worked. But what I didn't realize back then was that I was missing a key ingredient, and that really slowed my learning down. So in this video, I'm going to show you the most practical way to learn how to code and gain a deep understanding of computer science concepts step by step and actually land a job as a developer. So let's get into it. You've probably seen that T-shaped model for learning, where the top of the T means learning a little bit of everything, like breadth, and the vertical part means going deep into one skill. Most people say learn a little about a lot and then pick one thing to master. But I want to challenge that. What if, instead of learning one skill in depth, you can learn all of the skills in depth? And that's how top engineers learn. They don't just understand how to write code, they understand how the code fits together, along with certain rules and patterns. Okay, so how do we do that? We start by mapping everything that you need to learn, from the micro to the macro. At the most micro level, you learn the rules of a language. So how the syntax works, loops, functions. These are the things that you can learn from taking courses. And I've actually linked a bunch of courses in the description below that you can check out. For example, in Python, indentation isn't just style. It defines structure. So if you break the indentation, your code won't compile. And if you don't use a base case in a loop, then your code will just crash at runtime. So once you have a decent understanding of the rules of a language, then we zoom out a bit and you start seeing more patterns, like in real-world applications, like how to model real-world things in code. So let's say you want to represent a basketball player. The player has a name, age, height, stats, and this is what it could look like in the code. Now, if we want to represent an entire team of players, we wouldn't just write hundreds of lines of code representing the same exact thing over and over again. We'd create a blueprint instead. That's object-oriented programming. One basketball player object, and then we can create many versions of it with different data, kind of like passing in different parameters into a function. So here we've created a basketball player class that can just get recycled and reused. And we have variables like name, age, height, points, assists, and rebounds. And then we also have functions. So if we want to display the info for all of these values, we can just call the display info function, and it displays the name, the height, the points. And then we also have average stat, where it takes the points and the assists and the rebounds and it divides it by 3. And then all we do is we call player1 and we set it equal to our basketball player object. So instead of, if you remember going back to those hundreds of lines of code to add stats for basketball players, now it's very clean and simple. We just add whatever parameters we want, and then it sets the value equal to these variables in the basketball player class. Now, I said top engineers have a strategy to code faster and more efficiently, and that is getting under the hood and diving deeper into that T. That means actually understanding how your code works in the computer. That makes you more mindful when you're actually coding things. So when you write something in a high-level language like Java or Python, that code eventually gets translated into assembly instructions. These are step-by-step commands that your computer's processor understands. And underneath all of that, it turns into ones and zeros. Like, look, if you wanted to add 2 numbers in Python, this is how you would do it. This is what it would look like when it converts down to bytecode. And then eventually at the assembly level, you'd put that number in a register and then add 3 to the register. And then you'd store that result into the variable x. And underneath all of that, it turns into ones and zeros, binary code, little electrical signals that tell the hardware what to do. So every line you write, every for loop, every function, every variable, it eventually becomes a series of on and off switches in your CPU. So that's the deepest part of the T, understanding how your code turns into actual computation. And understanding these theoretical concepts are so important in my opinion. And again, you can always learn a lot of this information in the courses that I've linked in the description below. There's a ton of them that I mentioned in previous YouTube videos, and I'll even show some of them on the screen now. Once you've got the basics of object-oriented programming down, then it's time to learn data structures and algorithms. Basically, how to store and access data efficiently. But here's the thing. It's not about memorizing what a hash map or a binary search tree is. What really matters is knowing how and when to use them. Take hash maps, for example. The cool thing about them is speed. Instead of storing data in a list and checking every single element one by one, A hash map can find what you need almost instantly using a key. It's like having labeled drawers instead of digging through one giant box of stuff. But here's the trade-off. Hash maps use more memory because they pre-allocate space for possible keys. It's kind of like creating drawers for every letter of the alphabet, even if you only end up using a few of them. So it's always a balance, time versus space, and speed versus memory, and knowing when that trade-off is worth it. Okay, so going back to that T-shape, let's see what top engineers would have done to learn this concept more in depth. For example, have you ever wondered why a hash map is faster? It's because of how memory works. In your computer's RAM, data lives in tiny compartments called memory addresses. Think of them as numbered mailboxes. So when you store something in a hash map, a hash function takes your key, say the word cat, and it converts it into a number. And that number points directly to one of those mailboxes in memory. So instead of searching through a list, the computer just jumps straight to the right mailbox. That's why it's fast. But because we pre-reserve a lot of mailboxes, it takes up more space. The same idea applies to how functions and variables use memory. So when one function calls another, the first one gets stored on a section of the memory called the stack. If you have too many nested function calls, that stack can overflow, like literally run out of space. Or take strings. In many languages, strings are immutable, which means when you change one, the computer creates a new one in memory instead of editing or replacing the one that you already have. That's why operations like repeated string concatenation can take a really long time. Every time it's copying new data into memory. That's pretty cool, right? So you're not only understanding how to use data structures, but when they're important to use and what they're actually doing behind the scenes. And if you want to go even deeper, I've linked more resources for DSA in the description below as well. So definitely check out all of the resources that I've been talking about. Okay, so lastly, let's talk about the modern developer. Today's developers aren't just learning concepts on their own. They're learning with help, and that help comes from AI coding tools. Now, I want to challenge you first to learn the fundamentals before using AI code editors. But eventually, you will need to understand how to integrate them into your workflow, especially if you want to work in an enterprise environment. So I made a full video breaking down different AI tools for developers, but the key idea is this: know which tool belongs where, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. There isn't one AI tool that's better than the rest. It really depends on what you want to use it for. For example, some tools are built for your IDE, like Cursor or Augment. They help you refactor, add tests, and even create entire new features with agentic workflows. Other ones are better for the web or summarization, like Claude or Gemini. This is when you need to validate your code quickly, but the most important rule is don't skip the learning. Tools like Augment and Cursor are powerful, but they're too heavy-duty if you're just beginning to learn to code, and they end up writing too much for you, stifling your learning. If you use them too early, you'll miss out on what's actually happening behind the hood. And that's the wrong shortcut. That's not the one that top engineers are taking. So instead, start simple. Use tools like Claude or Gemini to summarize code, double check your logic, or just to get unstuck. Then, once you're comfortable with the basics, you can then start integrating those advanced IDE tools into your workflow. You'll also want to start practicing with enterprise-level projects. You can clone open source repos, create your own branch, and start coding for real. Learn how to install dependencies, run builds, and make commits. Because that's what being a modern developer is all about. It's not just about writing code, but it's understanding how everything connects, from the languages, the tools, and to the systems that run your code in production. That's when you stop just being a learner and start becoming a real engineer. And I haven't even gotten into the system design aspect, which I'll put that in a later video if you guys want to see it. So comment down below if you want to see a part 2 where I talk about systems design. All right, happy learning, and I'll see you guys in the next one.